I'm appalled at what you said on that pod thing. It's disgusting.
This is the After the Show podcast. It's where we get honest and real with yo ass. So sit back, relax, have a blast, because it's time for the After the Show podcast.
Yeah, baby, here we go. Welcome to the Thursday KVJ After the Show podcast. Virginia will be back with us tomorrow. She is still in Texas taking care of her mom.
So she flew.
Believe so, yeah. She didn't stay, but I can't imagine she would drive. That's a hefty drive. Very solid.
And my dad drives it a lot, and it is. I think it's a 2-dayer.
Could be, yeah. Could be. It depends on how aggressive you are with that driving schedule.
She is fast on her broom.
She is. But she got the kids, so I don't know if they all sit on the broom with her or she got to go a different route. So we'll have her back doing the dirt with us tomorrow and just get her general thoughts. In fact, Karen sent an email, and she said, I'm driving to work. I'm listening to you guys as I always do, and you're talking about that girl that is dating this guy, and she found out for the first time after staying at his place that he wears dentures. He's like 34. And she said, you were talking about whether or not that'd be a deal breaker. I would just like for you to ask that question to Virginia when she gets back, because I want to hear her opinion. Because I think she might have a different take than you guys.
He is undateable.
What? Yeah. Yeah, we didn't seem to think it being a big problem. She would have some balls if she were going to get on a guy for dentures. Because, look, to me, I look at all of that stuff where you're just doing something to accentuate your appearance, which she does, which I do. So I'm not going to fault anybody for that.
Clearly, I do not.
Well, we lean into it a lot more. We are a lot more high maintenance than both you and Denny's. I would say without a doubt. I mean, I got my hair. Virginia's always got something new that's going on with her body.
And I think, too, because, I think dentures are cheaper to get than getting, the implants and all that kind of stuff.
They might be. Yeah. My wife, the Queen, she just got something that is going to be. I haven't seen it yet. She has not received them, but she made a mold, and because one of her teeth came out in the back, and so her mom worked at a dental office for 30 years, and she did not have great. She didn't, to me, I'm crazy. I would brush my teeth more, but I had my dentist say, hey, you're brushing your teeth too much. So it was like they capped it at 2 times a day. So
you would do it 5?
Sometimes like every time I'd eat or I'd have something, I'd have a snack and I'd be brushing my teeth. And unfortunately, you talked about that. My mother-in-law, that's the one thing she had told me when it came to teeth. She said we would have so many instances of, we had one family, they had one toothbrush for the whole family. Could you believe that? And they would brush your teeth maybe once a week. And she said, never had any cavities, never had an issue. And we had somebody else that was almost the way that I was, where I was crazy about it. Every time I ate something, I felt like I had to brush my teeth and use mouthwash. And she's like, and it's just the enamel is not strong. And a lot of times that's what protects your teeth. That's a genetic thing a lot of times.
And sometimes some people just brush hard.
No, that was it. I have to do the soft brush. I have to do all that kind of stuff. So it's challenging for me. And I got to sometimes tell myself, and I have, if I forget, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I've just brushed my teeth 4 times today.
Oh, I will. Hamburger Hands Pennington is in there. I do not have a soft hand when it comes to it.
Yeah.
I brush my teeth hard too, and I've been told you're not supposed to.
If I combined your touch with my teeth, I'd be denture dude.
You would be.
Wow.
And even when I'm trying to be gentle, it's a real challenge.
My wife is the same way. She does not have that gear. She cannot be gentle. She can't. In fact, sometimes I'll have that itch on my back that you can't quite reach. And I'm like, ugh. But then I'm like, hey, could you scratch? She will, and I'm like, oh, and you can feel the skin just ripping off your back. I'm like, can you not
make me bleed?
Yes, it's so painful and it's rough because sometimes I just live with the itch because it's better than the scars that I'm going to have.
Yeah.
It's like I can feel her just ripping the flesh open.
I think I'm more of the clumsy type where if I'm trying to not make any noise,
Yeah.
gosh, it just gets
It's
so
tough.
much, it's
for
so
you
much
to-
louder.
Yeah.
My silence is even louder.
That's amazing. That is an amazing thing. Yeah. So I think my wife she's just bull in a china shop, and that's just how she goes. She doesn't care. She just mows things over. If she's got to get somewhere, just don't be in her path.
I wonder if that's an athlete's mindset, because I mean, you always talk about how she was a runner and she was always doing sports, and I always played sports and stuff, and you're taught to always go full gorilla.
Yeah,
So you wonder if that kind of
I think it might have to do so. Yeah, some of it might be about her training. When I hear about how her dad would make her run and how she had to run, it's absolutely insane. And so I think some of that is kind of bled into who she is today, without a doubt.
I mean, there really is a thing called the runner's high. It does exist, but the idea of running sometimes is so shitty.
I don't get it. They say it exists. I've never felt anything euphoric running. It's all pure pain.
When you calm down and you're kind of after going through, it's kind of like you just beat the shit out of yourself and you're exhausted and you're kind of coming down from it.
No, I have a sense of accomplishment. Maybe you feel good after you do something physically fit. But honestly, for me with running, my body's not built to run. It just isn't. My shins hurt, my legs hurt, my knees hurt. A lot of times I'm beet red. I'm a weird color. I can't breathe right. It's just there's nothing good with it. And I noticed that too. I have never seen someone running that looks happy. Never. And I see runners. We, Queen and I always do our walk. They all look miserable. Even the ones you can tell are runners and they're wearing shirts that say "I run" or whatever it might be.
Yes.
They all still just look miserable. I'm like, I think you're tricking yourself. I think you like running. I don't think you like running.
No, running's awful.
Yeah.
The running couple, you got to be careful of
Yeah,
them.
I don't get that mindset. Not built for that. Getting called out here a bit, Bird, by Heather. We had talked about Mars, the candy company, is going to be coming out with a Snickerdoodle Twix. And here I am. I'm a stranger. I haven't been in the candy world for, oh my goodness, 30, 40 years probably. A long time since I really was invested in it, really shopping around for the candy. So I had to ask you what Snickerdoodle was. And Heather says Jaybird has no idea what a Snickerdoodle is either. He's way off. That's what she said.
She's probably right.
Okay.
I know what they taste like. Maybe it doesn't have Snickers in it. I'm sure I'm wrong. I just don't know what I'm wrong about.
Well, Beth said a Snickerdoodle is a type of cookie characterized by its soft, chewy texture and distinctive cinnamon sugar flavor. They're typically made with a combination of butter, sugar, flour, eggs, and a leavening agent like baking soda and cream of tartar. Before baking, the cookie dough is usually rolled in a mixture of sugar and cinnamon. Okay, so cinnamon and sugar is what it would be.
Sugar and cinnamon. I mean, I know I've had plenty of them.
Corinne says it's like a butter cookie thrown in cinnamon sugar.
There's no pieces of chocolate in it, or candy in a Snickerdoodle.
I'm not seeing any of that coming up in people's explanation of it.
What the fuck is going on with it? I am just off. I mean, that's embarrassing. Not to know.
Completely whiffing on
my
Snickerdoodles.
gosh,
Yeah.
I'm over here.
To have no recollection and going down the wrong path.
And I'm the cookie guy over here. What?
You can't say that now.
Shit.
At least not a Snickerdoodle cookie guy.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. Maybe do some research on that. And good for the people watching YouTube right now. Sean sent this in. Jaybird, I thought of him and Honeyface. It is kind of a caricature of a man and a woman. They are in bed. They're facing each other. It doesn't look like they have any clothes on. The covers are pulled up just below their shoulders. They start kissing, and he lifts up the covers and says, "Come underneath this blanket. I have something I need to show you." What he has to show her is he's got glow-in-the-dark dinosaurs. Nice little surprise there at the end. That's what he had to show her.
T6.
Yeah, get in there, baby. And Eric said, hilarious Bird said something about a baseball field near the prison in that anime Netflix show that has just been renewed. And apparently the current 5th season of it is set in Port St. Lucie. next to a maximum security prison, which doesn't exist. There is Martin Correctional, which is by a baseball field where you used to play in high school. And Eric said it is kind of funny because in the show, there is a little ghost kid that is in a baseball uniform that helps the protagonist in the prison. And the kid actually looks a little bit like Jay Bird.
What?
How about that? Maybe you were... Because they were in the writer of it, I think he is Japanese, but I think he was inspired by South Florida. And so, yeah, in fact, I think that there's an accident that happens in West Palm Beach, so it references West Palm and Port St. Lucie. And so who knows? Maybe he just caught the show and is like, oh, I'm going to put this baseball-loving kid in my anime show.
That's crazy. I believe that is the high school Denny's went to, right?
He went to Martin?
Yeah, he went to Martin.
Martin
yeah.
County. Okay. Yeah.
The Tigers. Tigers?
I don't know if Denny's would know. Denny's was the one that thought that every single team had their own mascot, right? Like the baseball team could have been the Penguins and the basketball team could have been the Elephants.
Yeah, I think he was distracted.
Yeah, he wasn't a sport guy. I get it. I know. It's crazy.
Although I think he's pretty good at golfing.
Yeah. Yeah, but they don't have any mascots in golf. You just have
No.
their names.
No.
So
Although, should golf get some mascots?
well, arguably they might now that they do the Tiger League in I'm trying to think because they have team names. It's at least the city, but I thought they had a name. So I think, yeah, for the first time ever, that's an interesting trivia question. I think that'd be the first time ever that golf teams had a nickname, and I think they do. As otherwise, like you could play for your company or your country, I mean. I think, what is it? They do the Davis Cup. That might be it. So they have like the U.S. versus Europe and things like that. But yeah, never had mascots in sports till now. And a little feedback on some movies. Honestly, there's some really good movies coming out. That Karate Kid movie is out this Friday. Do you have any interest in that? Because, Ralph Macchio's in it, the original Karate Kid.
I'm curious to see what they do because it looks like it's completely different than Cobra Kai and it's got almost kind of not canon in that way. So the movie is different than the show. At least that's what I'm hearing.
I think he is Daniel LaRusso in it though, and it seems like they're tipping the cap to Miyagi, who I think because Jackie Chan is in it, and it seems like from the previews I've seen that Miyagi has a connection to Jackie Chan. Maybe he was one of his students. Back in Japan or whatever. And then you got obviously Daniel's son, and it seems like they're training a younger kid. So that seems to be like the premise of what it is. It could work.
I showed Honey Face Karate Kid for the first time. She had never seen it. She thought she had seen it, and we're watching it. I've never seen this before.
Wow.
Man, I fucking love the Cobra Kais.
You do.
I'm so team Cobra Kai.
They were good villains.
Over Daniel.
Yeah. You like him better, huh?
Yes.
He was just a little bitch ass.
I think Daniel was a little bitch.
Yeah. Came in, stole his girl and everything.
Daniel, now, if you really break it down, Johnny is wrong because he does grab Allie by her arm, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
But Daniel also is not innocent in a lot of this either. He gets involved.
He eggs it on.
I think he does egg it on. But they did start it. That Daniel doesn't know the Cobra Kais. He's just trying to talk to Allie with an eye.
Yep.
I don't know. I just that Cobra Kai's.
What'd your girlfriend think of it? Did she like it?
She loved it.
She
thought
did.
It,
She loved it.
She thought it was very, very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you show her the other movies in the canon, or did you stop at one?
Just yeah. I cannot put her through Karate Kid 3. That's
too much.
I can only do it to my friends.
I don't remember Karate Kid 2 being bad. I thought it was decent. I missed not having Allie in it. She's not the girlfriend interest in 2. Spoiler alert.
It's good. It's I like it.
I thought it was decent. I thought that the bad guy that they had and that was good, and I thought the premise was decent.
Karate Kid 3 is just unhinged. It is.
Yeah, I never went down that. I've
The
never
first
seen that
Karate Kid is a legitimate great piece of cinema.
Yeah.
Part 3 is like Roadhouse. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. That's an interesting cast, right? 3, isn't there? Who's in 3? Isn't there some girl that's in it that will end up being a big name later?
Robin Lively, I believe, is her name, and
Maybe it was another Karate
she's
Kid.
in Teen Witch, and you're thinking of probably Hilary Swank, the next
That's it.
Karate Kid.
Oh my God, they made 4?
The next Karate Kid's unwatchable.
Oh wow. Okay, that's who I was thinking about, and I didn't know they went to 4.
Oh, they went to 4, and it not my cup of soda.
Okay.
Did not like 4.
Wow. Yeah, they
And
just
it's
they
the
went one
next
too many.
Karate Kids.
So this movie commentary is known as a great feel-good movie. I'm gonna do that. It's Vince Vaughn. It's about opens up a restaurant, finds Italian grandmothers to come and cook, and it's based off a true story. Seems like Vince Vaughn has his signature humor that'll keep it funny, but yeah, heartwarming. I'm all about that. As soon as I get a time, I'm gonna watch that. That sounds perfect. And then Mission Impossible Final Reckoning is a great movie to tie all the Mission Impossibles together. 3 hours long, but I didn't feel like it with all the action. What I think I'm going to do, I think I'm going to go all the way back, start at 1 with Mission Impossible and kind of build up. I don't think I'm going to watch that one in the theater. I don't think it's necessary, but if I kind of start on the project here soon, I should be able to ramp up by about the time they release it to home and watch them all together.
I'm not talking Tom Cruise, the man. I'm talking Tom Cruise, the actor. Do you like Tom Cruise movies?
Yes, I love Tom Cruise movies. They're phenomenal.
They really are.
You can tell he takes it very seriously. You know, he's always wanted to be a movie star. He was made for it. And yes, his movies are fantastic. They're so good. I mean, in fact, I saw it was one of the things that had made me laugh. And, we were talking earlier about that conversation. It was humorous. And it was Matt Damon. And he was telling a story. I can't remember who he was telling it to, but he was talking about Tom Cruise. And he was saying, Tom's a little intense.
Yeah, you can tell.
He said that's the thing about Tom. And so I just asked him a question about the scene. I said, so how did you do that? He's like, okay, Matt, here's how it went. And he said he gets up and leans up in his chair. He's like, I've been singing to that shot for 20 years. And he's like, and he did a really good Tom Cruise impression. He's like, dude, he is so into movies, making movies, doing his own stunts. And Matt Damon was saying, I've talked to stunt guys, and they said what Tom Cruise does is insane. They said other stunt guys don't even. They said he is the greatest stuntman in Hollywood, period.
I know. I've heard other stunt guys say he is
the best stuntman in Hollywood. Yeah,
that's pretty insane too, though.
It is insane.
I got to do my own stunts.
He's just so intense, and he is. He's just so. My gosh, he's so over the top. That's Tom Cruise. But if you understand that about him, appreciate it. Yes, he is really committed to making great movies, and he, for the most part, does. He doesn't have a lot of massive stink bombs.
He really doesn't.
Even a bad movie for him to be like, it was okay, but he has some unbelievable movies.
And it's hard for people to separate the man from the movie sometimes because he rubs people the wrong way. The whole Oprah thing on the couch, just that entire year and a half was not a good year for him.
Yeah, he did. And then I'd even seen an interview with him. He was much younger. And somebody had asked him, they said, was Nicole Kidman the love of your life? He said, come, what? Come on. Like, what kind of, like, that's out of bounds. Like, what kind of question is that?
Peter, you're out of line, Peter. Peter,
that was it. Yeah,
Peter, you're going over the line.
Right.
You want to know, Peter. You want to know.
Yes, right.
Yes, I know that interview.
You know that interview.
Oh,
yeah, so that popped up the other day.
Because what's interesting about Tom Cruise, you can almost see he's putting on the show. He's putting it on. And as soon as you get in an area he's not comfortable with, you can see a major shift in personality.
I think what it is with Tom, he just takes everything way too seriously. And he's such a movie star. And it started when he was in high school. Like he was a teenager when he started making some of those early movies like The Outsiders and Your Risky Business. He doesn't know life of not being a massive star. And he's just so out of touch with everybody, but he knows how to make a great movie that you're going to love, but he can't not take it serious, and he can't laugh at himself. He's not self-deprecating, and that's how you win a lot of people over.
Sometimes you make a movie, and maybe you shouldn't do the press tour.
In a sense, he needs to be, but, I'm sure they make him, and he probably feels like he's knocking it out of the park and all that stuff, but if I were his handler, I'd be like, we need to put him in an arena where it's he's going to sell it best if he's just talking about the stunts and let his passion for the movie shine. We don't need to talk about his life. I mean, one of the things that had come out recently, too, was somebody had asked him, so what are you going to be doing on Father's Day?
Father's Day? Step over the line.
That was their way of kind of saying, hey, you don't seem to have any relationship with your 2 adopted kids or your biological daughter. And it's like, I don't know, maybe. And he didn't really have an answer, and it clearly wasn't hanging with my kids.
There's no way you can be relatable when you're that big of a star.
Yeah.
And all you've heard is yes pretty much your entire life. Oh,
Yeah.
you're great, you're great, you're
Right.
great. Of course he gets his criticism, but try telling Tom Cruise no on something.
Yeah, I think he's a weird dude. I think he's massively intense. He's got one gear. He can make great movies, and that's what he does. He doesn't have the charisma and all that. So, yeah, as a person, probably, Tom Cruise and I probably wouldn't be best friends, but I do recognize the guy's massively talented, and he goes for it, and he cares about delivering great product for the audience.
Do like a lot of his movies.
He's good at it. He really is, and that's just what it is. So, yeah, the Mission Impossible, honestly, I think the only reason why that series hasn't rung harder for me is, one, it is a little monotonous, and it's kind of the same things, and that's why I want to watch them all again in fairness, because my critique right now is probably not fair, and I want to see if I enjoy it. There's just been so much space. I mean, he started this character, 20 or 30 years ago? It's taken to make all these movies. And so you kind of forget about Mission. I can't even tell you what the first 3, I can't tell you what any of them are about, honestly, and I've seen probably all of them.
And doesn't he have another franchise that's got 5 movies in it?
Well, he is talking, where his conversations are going now, and it's interesting. I don't know how you feel about this, but the latest thing I'd seen with Tom Cruise is he's going back and looking at Days of Thunder. They're looking at where to take Top Gun. Now that Maverick did well, he's looking at least to do a Top Gun 3. Some of his other movies, I think his conversations are now going to, how do I continue the franchises of some of the ones that we could have done, maybe another Days of Thunder. And I think he's still trying to find a way to keep himself in the action game. That's what's going to be interesting. And look, he's done movies like Born on the 4th of July that's not action. When and how will he be able to give up action? Because if he's doing another Top Gun, that's action. If he's doing Days of Thunder, that's action. Guy's not young. So when does he finally stop being a daredevil?
I would go comedy and drama. I love A Few Good Men. I know a lot of people don't like that movie because it's just very dialogue driven.
Right. Driven, yeah. I don't know if you could do a sequel on that. That was such character driven, and Jack Nicholson, you're not getting him. And,
you can't make that a sequel.
Yeah, I think that one is a one and done. But they were talking about him doing a movie based off of. What was the one where they had a great cast in it, and the guy was doing blackface? Tropic Thunder. He played that agent in that. Remember, did he have a fat suit on or something? Because remember, he's like balding and he's chubby, and there's no way Tom Cruise put on that weight. That had to be a fat suit.
It was a move. That was him kind of coming out of that weird time where that Scientology video came out.
It was
remember?
almost a reintroduction to Tom Cruise. You're right. He had taken a little bit of a break because he had a tough time with interviews. And,
he was going through kind of what Katy Perry's going through.
Yeah,
he was kind of having one of those.
We needed a Tom Cruise palate cleanser, and I think you couldn't force feed another action film down our throats at that moment. And so he did that, and people were like, that's kind of cool. He stepped out of his comfort zone. And so I think they're talking about building a movie just around that character. So he might do that, and that's not action-based.
No, I don't know if that for Tropic Thunder or
his character from Tropic Thunder. Yeah, I saw this week. They're entertaining it. I think where he is, he's only in the discussion stage with all these projects, saying, okay, well, what could we do with this character? What could we do with this?
I think it was his name, Les Grossman, in that.
Might be. It was something like that. Grossman would be a good name for how he looked and how he worked, and that'd be kind of nice to. I get it, Tom. You can do action. I get it. You're trying to do all the action you can before you age out of physically being able to jump off planes and all that. But it might be nice to get something that's not action from him again.
If you had to jump out of a plane for a stunt, how bummed out are you?
It's going to be rough. I'm going to have to mentally really. I don't know how you do it.
Well, remember when there was some kind of a stunt we were going to do where we were going to crawl up a building, and I forget what it was, but
Was it the rappelling down the side of the building?
yes,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that because there was talks of maybe me doing it. Then you were gonna possibly do it. I think Suits ended up doing it.
Think so, yeah.
And the idea of doing that, because I thought about doing it, I'm going,
Yeah.
all right, maybe it'll be good content. I couldn't get there.
Well, there wasn't, to me, the stakes have got to be really good. And I'm like, the payoff wasn't there. I'm like, I'm deathly afraid of heights. And so, yeah, why am I going through this? What am I getting out of this?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a mental breakdown.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have to raise the stakes. If the stakes were there, I could get myself mentally, I think, to do it, but it takes a lot. I'm like, yeah, this ain't worth it.
I mean,
Like, what am I doing?
Unless KVJ Nation was going, I want to see Bird, try to conquer his fear. But let me tackle that Rapids ride first.
If it were for like a national TV show or something like that, I'd be like, all right, let's get up the gumption and do it. It was one of those things where I didn't even know if we'd have video. I'm like, so what am I doing this for? Who's going to be there? Like, there's going to be like 6 people there. I'm like, what? So I'm doing this for 6? Like, no, yeah.
Anytime you do a stunt or something and it's not being filmed, and it's just more of a,
You just gotta have payoff.
Yes.
You gotta have payoff. Like I'm not doing this for my health. Yeah, give me some payoff and we'll do it. Gosh, I saw our buddy Steve-O, man. He was in a plane with another dude, and he proved that he wasn't wearing a cup, stood right at the door, and the guy kicked him as hard as he could in the nuts and knocked Steve-O out of the plane. And that's how he was skydiving. I'm like, I think I would be so like rattled from getting kicked that hard in the nuts. I don't know if I could get myself composed to pull the cord to even get down.
Steve-O's got to be exhausted.
I thought that too. I'm like,
He's got to be.
I don't know who's more tired, Tom Cruise or Steve-O.
Tom Cruise, I think, get tired.
Because these guys, I mean, they're both either my age or older, and I'm like, how are they doing this?
Well, Steve-O does a podcast, and
he's got stakes in the game, so I get why he does it. That's his act.
And he went on a tour, kind of like a podcast tour. A lot of comedians do that because he does stand-up. And he kind of had a rough run of podcasts back to back on other people's.
He did.
So
okay.
the internet does what the internet does, and
he needed to do a palate cleanser.
And I think he was reading all the comments, and I think it got in his head a bit.
So that was it. So he said, because I think he said he'd retired from getting kicked in the nuts, and then he said, I unretired for this. So maybe that drove him.
He's got to be exhausted.
Yeah, I was like, what inspired you to have to go back and do this? I guess that's what it was.
And does that stunt get you getting kicked in the balls, falling out of the plane? What's the bottom line on that? How much money are you going to get from that?
Well, it's a weird way of doing it because you got to get the views and all that stuff. And then I think from that, then you sell and you make some money off of it. So I think a lot of times the way it is now with entertainment media and stuff, you may not know when you do it. You'd be like, I hope this gets the traction that I think it will. But if it doesn't, then you're like, I got kicked in the nuts hard and almost died coming out of this plane, and we've got 3,000 views on this.
And I'm not trying to come off like a Steve-O hater. We've interviewed him several times.
I don't
been
want to say
very,
anything
very nice.
No, he's amazing. This is nothing negative at all on him. In fact, it's only just in awe of what he continues to do for his audience, and he's that way. He goes all out overboard. He reminds me of you, where it's like sometimes like, dude, you are killing yourself for the audience, but that's just it, man. You guys have the same gene.
Yeah, yeah. He's I think he's completely sober.
He is, yeah.
I think, and so I mean, he's doing that
been for a while.
He's doing that with straight up.
Well, I don't think Tom Cruise puts anything in his body either, and I think that's it. There are people that get that adrenaline rush, and that's their drug. I was telling you and Denny's about an interview that I was watching. This guy was a former Navy SEAL, and he was going around the world. He actually left the SEALs because they had given him an assignment, and it was boring. He wasn't getting enough action. He wanted combat. He wanted to be shooting and killing people. He wanted his life in danger because he was an adrenaline junkie. And he said, man, when you are there and bullets are whizzing by your head and you think this might be your last moment, the
rush.
He needed that. Yeah. He had to feel like he was on the edge of his life. And so he left the SEALs because it was too pussy for him. And he found the most dangerous city in the world which was, I think, in Honduras. And he just went there and then started basically taunting the cartel and doing stuff with them.
And he used it for good, right?
Well, he was doing some SEAL missions, freelance stuff, I think maybe CIA and whatnot. But then, yeah, he was getting mixed up doing a bunch of really dangerous cartel type stuff. But he's like, that was his rush.
He's the dude from Taken.
Yeah, he needed that. So I think there's some people that are like that, where they just
have to have that. They're either jumping out of planes, they're climbing mountains, they're really just they are. There's definitely that type of personality.
Yeah, and the guy's pretty interesting. His name's Sean Ryan. He has his own little podcast that he does, and very interesting conversations on there. But yeah, if you ever want to see that, it was Tucker Carlson was interviewing him, and that was the first time I'd ever seen him. But it was fascinating because I'd never heard anybody talk about the adrenaline as a drug, and how some people have to continue to find massively dangerous situations. And it makes sense. Have you ever seen those thrill seekers? That Travis Pastrana, the guy that jumped out of a plane without any parachute or anything, he was like, I'll just try to attach to my friends and whatever, they were jumping out with me. That was his whole plan. He was just like, let's just jump out of a plane without a parachute and see what the hell happens.
That's a man who believes in his friends.
And he's a guy that is always doing things like where you should just be dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sean, somebody was asking on the spelling on that. It's SHAWN, Ryan, RYAN. And I'm listening to an episode he has with Larry Vickers right now. It's a little bit nerdy, but I'll mention it here, not on the regular show. It's talking about getting energy from space and how you can then beam it to Earth in places where they don't have power grids and everything. And it's a dark energy on the dark side of the moon. And they said China's already way ahead of us in this. And it's the future of energy is getting it from space and harnessing it back to Earth.
I have heard of this. And it's something else, man. There's a lot of stuff in the future. I don't know.
It's insane. And
how it's going to go.
I'm 15, 20 minutes into this episode. As they do them long, but it's just, wow. It's a whole different level of conversation.
And that is the cool thing about podcasting, is that you can have long form conversations where you can really kind of articulate your thoughts. Sometimes I feel, and I love radio. I love radio, but we got to keep it moving. There's commercials, there's music.
Right.
Sometimes you're about to say something and you don't explain it. Not you, just you don't have enough time to elaborate your true feelings through it.
Well, doing both, it's radically different, and I much prefer podcasts over radio. And one day I would like to get to this format where it's relaxed and it's conversational, and you're not like, oh, code word, oh, commercials, oh, all that crap.
That fucking code word.
Yeah, but it's two really different things.
It is. It's a completely different game.
Yeah, and I would say that the skill sets, they're kind of different. I'd had the radio because I'd done that forever, and I think doing the podcast, and even if we did more interviews and stuff like that, that's a whole different skill set that I don't get to exercise often.
One of the big critiques I got when I first started doing Weird and Whatever was I think I was trying to manage it like a morning show and keep it quick and keep it moving, and people are saying you don't have to do that. Take your time with it. Let things develop. Yeah, and it was a great critique because it did make me say, it's not the morning show. It's something that's completely different.
It is. Yeah, you have to learn how to settle in and listen more, and kind of take the conversation from there. Whereas, with the radio part, it's really scripted out for the most part. I mean, the conversation is all ad lib, but okay, next we're doing this, next we're doing that, next we're doing this.
Well,
and, with a podcast, a lot of times you really just need to listen to the conversation and kind of go with the flow.
And there's a thing sometimes that can happen where if we're on the regular show, someone can get in one zing.
Yeah.
But they get the zing in just enough time where you can't respond.
Right. Because, you're like, I got to wrap this up. We got to hit the commercial.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if I let everybody flush this out, that's another 2 or 3 minutes, and then everything's all, And, that's really annoying to have to live by that.
But then, it is pretty funny if you're able to get a zing in and there's only 4 seconds left, and you land, you're like, shit.
It's the ultimate mic drop. No coming back. Yeah, and Ryan said too, and FCC regulations don't apply to podcasts. It is, it's nice, and it's not that you have the freedom to say dirty things. That's not it. It's just that you don't have to think about the sensibilities, and you're talking to adults. when we do the radio, you've got the whole kids in the car, and it's understandable. And so you always have to have that filter in. And when we get here, it's like, well, it's on you if you got your kids listen to this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't have any guilt about the podcast. Now, yeah, I swear a lot more, but I mean, to be quite honest, I'm a person who does swear in my regular life.
It should be natural. It really should. I mean, it shouldn't sound forced. And I've heard people that they're swearing just to swear, and it doesn't sound natural that way either. But that Sean Ryan I was just telling you about, when he was on, he cusses all the time, but he's a freaking Navy SEAL, and it sounds authentic. I would just say be you and be authentic. And if you swear a lot and it's natural to you, then go with it. But if you're not and you're just trying to swear because you're on a freaking podcast, and don't do that either.
Absolutely. No, you're right. But sometimes just a motherfucker, it hits harder than.
It's nice to be able to talk and not be, oh crap, what did I say?
Yeah.
One thing that was kind of interesting is we were talking today about which came first was how long Chick-fil-A's been around. In fact, because ChatGPT gave me all those ones, and I think it actually gave me bad information on that one when it was comparing. I think I pulled up Chick-fil-A, and it was we'd had KFC was in there against Subway, and then I compared Subway to Chick-fil-A, and I think at first it gave me bad information. But yeah, I think Chick-fil-A was the originator, coming around maybe like in the 40s or something like that with Kathy Truitt. And then we were asking about, okay, well, when Chick-fil-A, in a sense, for me, feels like a newer franchise, which is insane. And I think the reason why I feel that way is because I was in South Florida, and I remember the launches of all the Chick-fil-A's. And still, there's a debate about when they launched a Chick-fil-A. They had this fight in Fort Lauderdale where the mayor got involved with it because they wanted to open a Chick-fil-A, but people complained, said, we can't deal with the traffic. And so that's a relatively new phenomenon. I think the reason why is Chick-fil-A, and it was a southern thing that came out of Georgia. Southern states went first, but for South Florida, when you saw Chick-fil-A's, they were in mall food courts. And that's what kind of came out today. Was like, so when did they start doing standalone Chick-fil-A's with the amazing drive-thrus and all that kind of stuff? And that is probably in the last 20 years, I would say at least, relatively recent phenomenon. So going back through when did it start in South Florida, Chick-fil-A, and it seems like about the oldest recollection that we have here, somebody was able to pinpoint it down. They said 1989/90, Boynton Beach Mall. My next door neighbor moved down from Philadelphia to open it up. Brian sent that in.
We were so pumped because, like I was saying earlier, we had a guy that worked there, and I think he was assistant manager and could always give us free Chick-fil-A cards. So after practice, we would go there at the Gardens Mall and just mow down on all this free Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It made him a lot cooler.
Was there chicken sandwiches as renowned then as they are now, or did they come up with a new way of making them and they got better in the last 20 years?
I gotta look, I've talked a lot of shit about Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have good food, and I think they've always been pretty darn solid. Mm-hmm. I think they've kept it moving.
Okay. I did see somebody breaking down how many chemicals are in that chicken sandwich, though.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was a one-off, and you don't know what's true, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to look back into that, because they're talking about they put fillers and all that kind of crap in it.
I mean, I'm not shocked.
No, not either. But but I had always, I was doing Chick-fil-A a good bit. My son really loved it, and I was like, well, this is healthy. This is the healthy stuff. But I don't know. Sometimes you don't even know, man, what they're doing to your food.
Grilled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do the grilled chicken, and they had a old salad. I do different stuff. I do those nuggets. They do the grilled nuggets. But Lynn had said too, and we had the wrong mall. There was a murder at a Chick-fil-A, but it wasn't Gardens Mall. It was the Palm Beach Mall. One of the employees, it was on the Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard location, and they closed that Chick-fil-A right after it. I don't know if I remember that story even.
Wow. Did it say the year?
No, it doesn't say. It says the murder of the Chick-fil-A employee was at the Palm Beach Mall on Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard.
I mean, Palm Beach Mall is old. I know it's the Palm Beach outlets now, but the mall itself was big shit back in the 80s and 90s in this area.
Yeah, it was. In fact, I remember, because it's very close to my house. I was just over there at the outlets yesterday. I'm there all the time. And it was when we were in Miami that they opened up. Because I remember it was weird because we weren't allowed to talk about it. Because we were in Miami. They're like, don't mention anything Palm Beach. Remember, we were told you can't reference Palm Beach.
They don't exist anymore. They really said that.
Oh, yeah. They're like, well, nobody in Miami gives a shit about Palm Beach, so don't talk about Palm Beach.
Terrible advice, by the way.
Yeah, it's just like, all right, another reason why I hate being here. Yeah, it says 1999 murder of a teen. Appeals court threw out the conviction. Okay. So it was 99 that it went down. So that was right when I first got here. So maybe that's why it wasn't familiar enough to me at that point. But yeah, I remember. Yeah, that mall. And I remember it did get kind of violent. That was where the queen, she tricked me into dressing up as Pinocchio. We were going to take the young kids. The twins were young at the time, and it was for a trick or treat. And we don't have trick or treating really in my neighborhood, so the Palm Beach Mall would have it. And so we were supposed to dress up as Disney characters. And so I had my costume. I got out. I went to get in the car, and I'm like, where's your costume? She's like, yeah, I just didn't like the way it looked. And that's when I realized, I'm like, you fucking bait and switched me. So I look ridiculous. I'm in these tights. I'm dressed as Pinocchio. I was real skinny at the time on top of it. I remember just going over to the mall, and it's like all these dudes came up, and they go, yo, what up, Pinocchio? And I got harassed the entire time.
Did her nose grow like
miserable?
Because she didn't tell you the truth.
She should have, yes. I wish it would have. I remember that. That was the last. That's why I'm so averse to dressing in costume, because it was so traumatic. That experience. I'm like, I never want to have a costume on again.
I would say 3 times in my life I've shown up in a costume thinking it's a costume party because people said it was a fucking costume party, and it was the only one there.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, I mean, like I said, I was more worried. I'm like, these guys are gonna kill me. I'm like, I stood out, and they were just. Yeah, they were all over me.
And how rough would that be to get your ass beaten in a Pinocchio?
In a Pinocchio costume. So I said, I'm going to fucking die dressed as Pinocchio. What a terrible way to go.
It ain't right.
Just a pummeled and beaten Pinocchio lying dead out front of the Palm Beach Mall. I thought that was going to be the way it went out. Danny from the 305 has got something here on tequila. And thank you again to Rebecca that came in here, brought me a bottle of tequila yesterday and kind of schooled me on it. Kind of like I'm just trying to figure out all the additives. I am very much a novice when it comes to the tequila game. Been drinking almost exclusively now for just a couple of years. But, I just go with the stuff that's around $30. I don't like to spend much more than that.
Is it the taste or the feel you like the most about it?
A little bit of both. I've gotten to the point where, I really am starting. I do enjoy the taste of it now. As I've tried other tequilas, my palate's getting to the point I'm like, I don't think that's very good tequila. I don't really love that. That's kind of where my issue was with that 21 Seeds that is the infused tequila. I'm like, it just doesn't taste enough like tequila to me. Yeah, it makes a good little margarita, but it's not good to drink alone. If you're going to make yourself a skinny margarita, use it for that as a mixer, but just to have it as tequila, no. It's not working.
There are so many infused new drinks out there, whether it's weed or if it's just all these new drinks that are out there.
Oh, I know. It's a whole new game.
It's going to get weirder, too.
Whole new game. And I think what's happening is there's been such an infusion of... Because so many people are getting rich off of their beverages, and especially as you see celebrities that are, jumping into it, the Ryan Reynolds and The Rock. And in fact, he goes off here and he said, the KVJ Nation dropped off the Siete Leguas is spot on. And let me add something else. All celebrity-backed tequila is shit, Danny says. Clase Azul also sucks. It's a gimmick with a cool bottle, and that's what really kind of opened my eyes to it. I saw somebody breaking down how they have vanilla extract and all that stuff. They're like, it's not even really, you couldn't even call it tequila. They're all full of additives and sugars that don't belong in good tequila. He said the tequila Virginia said knocked her tits off is a bad tequila and non-natural alcohols. That's why you get fucked up when you drink them. Interesting. He said, I recommend tequilas like Siete Leguas, Cimarron, Tres Agaves. Now, I drink Tres Agaves typically, and I do like that. My wife started buying the Terramina. El Tequino, Tequila Ocho, Arete. You can get all these for $25, $35. They won't get you sick. If you want to splurge a little more, go with Fortaleza, G4 Lalo. Download the Tequila Matchmaker app. It'll tell you which ones have and don't have additives. That's amazing. I'm going to get that. Also, follow Lou Fern on Instagram. He's a wealth of knowledge about tequilas. That's Luifern. I cringe every time you mention that shitty Terramana. If you have any of the ones mentioned above, you'll never go back. Well, thank you for that, Danny. I appreciate that, for walking me through that. So you guys are getting me there on the tequilas.
So basically, you were drinking the Hot Pockets of tequila?
The Terramina. Well, I mean, I actually kind of accidentally did well with the Tres Agaves, and that's what I had preferred. I'm like, I like the price and I like the taste, and my wife was buying the Terramina. I think because she fell for the rock thing.
And they're right when it comes to some of these bottles they make. I got the shittiest tasting alcohol, but it was so cool because the bottle was shaped in this awesome guitar. It was so cool, but it tasted like shit.
Well, it's a whole thing. I mean, the marketing and getting a name behind it and all that kind of stuff. Chicago Lulu is talking about Marky Marks. I think he has the Flecha Azul, I thought that was his.
Gosh.
And I don't know how that one is. I don't think I've ever had that one.
Everyone has a podcast and everyone has a liquor.
Yeah, well, and they usually have a podcast talking about their liquor. I mean, it's really, and it's the marketing of it. And, to that point is that, I think they're just in it for the money. They're in it for that game. And so really committing yourself to making great tequila, I don't know what you do. I mean, I'm thinking of all the celebrities have one. One of the Jenner girls has the 808, 818, maybe it's 808. And I don't think that's terrible. I think I've had that before.
But regardless, it's still an annoying story.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's a celebrity that's just trying to jump in. And look, I don't blame them. Because, I mean, the stories are the Casamigos that Clooney sold that for like $1 billion. And even if he's splitting that 50-50 with Randy Gerber, that's $500 million.
Conor McGregor, he has his own.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, even the Hulk Hogan's got his own shitty beer. So, I mean, everybody's got
That's
something.
right, brother.
What is it? All American beer? American beer? I don't even know what it is. Yeah, but you're right. So thank you, Danny, on that. And appreciate the education. If you got anything else to drop in on that, I'm always looking to learn, and we're one day away from the weekend. It's a perfect time to do it. So appreciate it. All right, y'all, have a great day. Virginia back with us tomorrow for the Friday KVJ show. See you then.